Welcome everybody to the 4th episode of the Gym Leader Chat Lounge, and today we are going to break down our league runs. We are going to talk about Colorless specifically because that type is kind of whack right now. How can it get better? We have 2 Colorless players this week with us, and those 2 people are John Patterson, my co-host.
Yellow.
And we have another special guest because Tony once again decided to get sick. And so we invited Alex Carpenter to join us for this week. Alex, how are you?
Ooh, doing pretty good.
Yeah, I bet you are. I'm gonna let the vitriol fly right away, Alex. We're all very mad at you because you got another.
I'm ready to take it.
You got another badge. There's no justice in the world, and somehow this keeps happening. But you know,
badge into the 4-0 run on the Carpenter Warriors Saturday.
Yep, and won the webcam tournament today. Bro cannot stop winning. He is him. Yeah, and then after all that, we're going to get into some Ascended Heroes, just a quick set review because we didn't really do that before. Not much to cover, as most of you know, but we will get into it. But since we have Alex here, if you guys do not know, Alex Carpenter also goes by Plopal on Discord servers, and he has been our 2-time Gym Leader Challenge champion at Full Grip Games, and he is currently in the lead by a sizable amount in our 3rd season. He's got 6 badges. John is in 2nd place with only 3 badges. And yeah, that's just about how it's going. That's how it went last year. It's going again this year. Somebody might be able to catch up to him. We'll see. But Alex, people want to know why.
That's a very good question. I don't. It's fun. Who doesn't like winning?
What? How do you keep winning? I want to know. How do you keep winning?
I don't know either. I just play cards, and it works out.
Yes. Yes. But yeah, no, we did want to get to know you a little bit more for people who don't. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, what got you into Gym Leader Challenge in the first place, and Pokemon, maybe a favorite GLC memory, whatever you feel like sharing. Floor is yours.
So yeah, got into Pokemon as a whole, just as a kid, playing the games, playing the card game completely wrong. Fell out of it in, high school, whatever, and sort of into college. And then after finishing college and moving back home, one Tuesday night, Hunter, another local, just kind of randomly went, "Hey, I heard you're back in town. Want to come to this card shop with me, play cards, whatever?" And I went, "Okay, why not?" He handed me a grass GLC deck, played water, beat me so bad. Well, and part of that was also just me not reading cards correctly, because card players can never read, of course.
Nope.
So I was doing stuff like Rillaboom. I was attaching one energy and putting the other one in my hand for some reason. Stuff like that. But it just got me hooked, and that was also right after Silver Tempest came out. So standard wise, that was broken Lugia format. But I just never got into it. Hunter introduced me back into the game through GLC. I was hooked pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I don't think I've not played Pokemon really on a Tuesday since then. And that was, almost 3 years ago now? I never really even went through Standard, just stuck with GLC the whole way. Some of my favorite memories through it, though, is just a couple. It's like there was, when we first started the badge system, was when me and Hunter were first working on the Lightning Spread deck that I have somewhat become synonymous with.
Yeah.
And getting my first badge, which was also my first time, because I'd come to Full Grip weeklies for about 6 months before we started doing badges, and had not won a single one. So my first ever Full Grip Thursday win was with the Lightning Spread deck for my first badge.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a great memory. One I'll gloss over here for Ben's sake is Hex Maniac. Uh,
Yep.
If you know, you know.
Oh yeah.
Had to mention it.
Have to.
Yeah.
That is so funny though, because it seems like the moment that something was put on the line, you just started winning. So if you put a prize or a goal in front of Alex Carpenter, he's gonna go get it.
Well, you say that, but I have not had good showings at any of the 3Ks yet, really. I went 5-2 at the Destined Rivals, and everything else I've been 4-3 or worse. I don't know what it is about those.
I feel
But
you,
that
buddy.
is another thing
I'm
that will
5-2 at all those. 5-2 at every single one.
consistency. But I am still proud of with those that are Ryan Hunter's Lightning Spread 60 top cut the first two.
Yeah.
Through Cole and Austin.
Mm-hmm.
There was that. I really enjoyed this recent one. I had a very bad start to the day and got to go cast the rest of it, and that was a lot of fun.
Yep.
So yeah, just so many times. Like GLC is just so much fun. The community's great.
Yeah.
All of our sessions out in the Full Grip parking lot are great.
Yep. No, it's been a great time. Yeah. As much as I despise seeing you win, I'm also happy for you, and I'm glad you're in the group, and we're happy to have you on today. But on the topic of Lightning Spread, obviously not very popular right now. What do you feel about its place in the meta?
Curse you, Ting Lu and Marshadow. Uh, Specifically, it's just Lightning as a whole right now. I love Lightning Spread. It's one of my favorite decks to play. The lines can be extremely tight, but also it can just be so overbearing if you can get the fast Electivire, spreading 50 to everything. But in the meta right now, it's in a really rough spot thanks to fighting being good. It really specifically, it's thanks to Ting Lu be fitting into the good fighting deck. Because if Ting Lu can attack 3 times, that's usually at least 4 prizes. Between weakness and your active, and lightning does not have any guys that can take a hit.
Yeah.
Between that, all your bench sitters are small. It's just that, and then even if you can get past the Ting Lu, Marshadow just sweeping is so deadly to the deck that right now, a lightning deck that's been sort of popularized is this bombs list that is playing still like the spread Electivire and Regieleki, but it's hoping to accelerate the game through using the Magneton and Electrode that knock themselves out. It doesn't jive with me, but I also get that sort of high roll accelerating the game is where Lightning needs to be if it's going to hope to contend with what fighting is doing right now.
Right. And so outside of fighting, maybe took a day off at a night.
Oh, Lightning Spread is its other matchups. The only one that's changed really is Psychic, because it has put sort of heavier spread techs in to combat Ting Lu in fighting specifically. So like the Cresselia makes it so that you still can work with it, and it's nice because it means you don't have to stick Silent Bear or Silent Lab for their bench barrier. But it does make you be extremely careful about the order that you attack with things, because one Electivire, if you attack with Electivire, you're kind of fine, because while they can snipe around it, if they don't deal with the Electivire, they're gonna be racking up damage. But attacking with anything else is just asking for Cresselia to ruin your day.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it feels still very strong into most other decks. Water, even with spread techs, is usually very doable. Between weakness and just the cards you play to turn off bench barrier. So it's a very strong deck. It top cut the first two big cash events that Full Grip held, until Soul Rock and Lunatone came out.
Yep, and everything changed.
Yes.
And we actually hadn't. One other type, obviously, that was hit hard by fighting is Colorless. And since Soul Rock and Lunatone come out, we had not seen a Colorless badge at Full Grip Games until this past week. So let's hop on over to that and take a look at our top 8.
Yeah, so another top 8 here. Pretty diverse types again. Like we had last week, we got 2 RDTs in there, 2 specifically Dwixty lists, that list with the Gallade and the Dust Noir, a water, a grass, and 2 colorless, making the top 8. Alex Carpenter, our man here, taking it home with the Harambe list. We'll let him go over here in a little bit, but includes some cool birds in there. As you can see, that Pelipper, Swallow, and then some of the hop stuff. So congratulations to Alex there, taking it home. Our top 4 rounded out here by Craig on an interesting hydro pump style list with the powerful Squall Blastoise that sort of has a metal maker ability, letting you look at the top 6 cards of your deck and putting any water energy and then shuffling the rest back in. Then Tyler Price, kind of newer to not the full grip scene, but the GLC scene. Getting a top 4 placement there, going 4-1 on the Dwixty. So congratulations to him. And then our podcast's own very own Ben Morse at that 4th place with the RDT Rock Stogie Ting Lu. So yeah, pretty interesting week here at the Full Grip League.
Yeah, a couple things. Yeah, shout out Tyler. This is his first top 4 placement at a league night. So props to him. I think it's his first time playing Psychic as well. So gather from that what you may. And Craig's list. I didn't play against Craig, but this is his second week in a row, I think, playing the powerful Squall Blastoise. Obviously not in the conversation much online is this card. It's when you think about playing Blastoise, you know, the Deluge one, the Rain Dance one is usually the first one you'll go to. And even after that, I usually see, what's the other one? The special energy one?
I don't remember the name of the ability. It's something Spring.
Spring.
Is that right?
Yeah. Vitality Springs?
Yes, that's it.
Yes.
Yeah. The other Blastoise, Vitality Springs, which allows you to search your deck for up to 6 energy, including special energy cards, and attach them and end your turn. That I even hear talk about that one more than I hear talk about powerful Squall Blastoise. So Craig was in the lab, I guess, cooking up this Blastoise list. Do you guys know anything about it?
He specifically plays it because he really likes Matang's Metal Maker, and just saw the ability, literally just saw the ability was similar and went, I want to play that.
That's funny. Yeah, I think Craig is our only metal badge right now.
Yes.
Yeah. So obviously he has some experience with the metal maker ability. So yeah, that's kind of funny. I didn't get to talk to him much about it. I believe he's played on stream. So if you're interested, go check out Tricky Jim's live streams where he streams our Full Grip League nights. And if Craig wins, then with this deck list, then we'll get to show it off at some point. But yeah, props to him for picking up this homebrew and going to a powerful 2nd place finish. Those rogue brew, you know, we talk a lot about like the top decks, the top meta decks. You know, Milo Pump won the last 3 times. RDT is always at the top, and then take your pick of Psychic. It's a little refreshing to see, you know, such an uncommon archetype. You know, one that's not super discussed, performing well. So props to Craig. Colorless finally earned its badge. As you can see, the top 4 players were all 4-1, unfortunately, me being one of them. And so when that happens, it goes down to resistance at Full Grip, and whoever has the best resistance does get to take home the only badge of the night, and it ended up being Carpenter. Yeah, and so let's go through our runs at League, and we'll tell you what happened. I'll start. So yeah, I played RDT last week. I played RDT as well to 2nd place. So I got another top 4 back to back. And I made one change. So this is my picture from last week, but I changed one card. I swapped the Viridian Forest Stadium for the Silent Lab Stadium, which shuts off basic Pokemon abilities. And I did that because, like I said last week, I wasn't super impressed with how much Viridian Forest aided me. But in the face of other fighting decks that I was expecting to play against. Like I know Hunter has been playing it, um, and even also including Alex knowing he needs his colorless badge. Silent Lab shutting off basic abilities is pretty good into those matchups, as well as to any bench barrier and like water that I might see. But my matchups ended up being one fighting deck, three psychic decks, and one colorless deck. So round one was against Jack Martin, who was playing a Hippowdon Tinglu spread fighting deck, all focused on basic energy. It plays the Ursaluna to clean up, plays the rocks, of course, no Okidogi, no special energy, but has the Hippowdon. Hippowdon's kind of crazy. It does for 3 energy, 150 damage to the active, plus 40 damage to every of your opponent's benched Pokemon. So there was a turn where I had a basic energy on my Okidogi on the bench. He was behind on prizes, and he had reversal for Hippowdon and Guzma up my Okidogi to one-shot the Okidogi before it got bonus HP and put 40 damage on all my guys. And I was like, uh-oh, like this could be bad. But luckily, since that tied him on prizes, I was able to kind of slow down a little bit. I was like, okay, I'm not going to take a prize yet to reactivate. Since I couldn't knock out Hippowdon immediately, I went into my own Tinglu, started spreading, softening up his guys while his Hippowdon was kind of just stuck there without enough energy to use the attack again because the reversal was shut off. And so we went back and forth for a while. I ended up taking it home with, the large size of my Okidogi and my Ursaluna, and I drew into some Bossos and Guzmas when I needed them. And I talked a little long about that matchup. I'll go quicker on the other ones. I played against 2 Garbodors back-to-back that I ended up beating. One of them was Jack Hooper on stream. You can go back and watch it. It was a long slog of a game that came down to Jack miscounting his Cresselia. Multiple things had to go my way. He miscounted how much damage he was moving with Cresselia. So instead of taking a knockout, he just softened up my Lucario. Realized it after, probably was beating himself up for it, unfortunately for him. And then he also was unable to move his Garbodor at the end of the game for me to kind of trap it and swing into it over and over to win. And then round 3 chase, I had a win against him. I just had a crazy opening hand, and he just wasn't able to really build back. Round 4 against our very own John Patterson, playing colorless, and I went Marshadow, strong energy, muscle band, swing, good luck, gust, Guzma, boss, field blower, everything I needed. John can talk more about it.
It was ugly.
He was working hard, but I was just like, go ahead, try your best. I was cheering him on. But Marshadow was just going crazy. And then unfortunately, so I was the only 4-0 going into round 5, and then unfortunately lost to like just a terrible hand into Tyler. And I don't want to blame it all on my hand, because there were definitely, like, if I had chosen a different route, maybe things would have turned out differently. Like my second turn, I decided to go for Tinglu because he didn't play a supporter, and he had 3 60 HP guys on his bench, and I'm like, if I can just get 2 Tinglus off before he responds with Cresselia, then I'm gonna be like in a really good spot. So I took that risk, but he did have the search for Cresselia immediately, despite not having a supporter. And I just got majorly punished. Like I had Riolu in play and Tinglu, and that was it. And from there, I kind of just like bricked out of the game. unfortunately. And then, yeah, me and Tyler both didn't even get first or second after playing in the final. So that was my night on RDT.
That's how weird those get sometimes. You said it was 3 psychics you played against?
3 psychics, and I beat 2 of them.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my fighting badge. I got through 2 psychics. I mean, getting through a third, that's tough. 3 psychics in one night, that's a hard task to complete there. So congratulations on the run, though, as far as you did make it.
Thanks. I mean, with 2 colorless in the field, also, I was hoping Carpenter would have been my last final round pairing, and then maybe
so excited.
Maybe the standings would have been a little differently. I'll say that much. But he squeaked by and didn't have to play me at the end, though he did beat a fighting deck. But yeah, so before we get to Carpenter, why don't we hop on over to John's night?
Yeah, so switched off metal this week to a colorless deck. Mainly, I'll be 100% honest, I just didn't want to talk about metal on this podcast for a 4th week in a row. So I've mentioned before, I'm someone who likes to pick a type and really stay to it and grind it out until I get a badge with it. But this podcast kind of pushing me out of my comfort zone a little bit, trying things a little different. So switching it up this week, playing colorless. It's a pretty the list here is pretty standard to kind of the sorts of things that you would see pre Mega Evolution coming out, and kind of the last time we saw like the Turbo Colorless Snorlax lists doing well. Went ahead. I'll just go over like a couple things here that I changed because we'll talk a little bit more about colorless later. The main things that I did to try and combat the fighting matchup, and it was kind of a decision. I was thinking the whole day leading up to it. I'm like, gosh, do I even want to put these in my deck to give myself like a 5% better chance into maybe beating, fighting, or do I just want to kind of sack the entire matchup? But did end up deciding to put a couple in, namely in the picnic basket there, being something that can fight and combat the Ting Lu spread. Not only doing that, but the Hops Snorlax doing the 80 damage to itself. It will knock itself out if it attacks again. So I just like the idea of having a healing card in general in colorless. So it serves the purpose of refreshing your Snorlax so that it can attack again, as well as combating against some spread.
Yeah.
The other thing, you'll see the last card in the list down here is that Weakness Guard Energy. So the Weakness Guard Energy combined with the Fighting Fury Belt and the Cape of Toughness, just hoping to boost some Snorlax HP, being able to take a hit from a Fighting Mon, a Dogi, or something like that. So
yeah,
that was just kind of the idea there behind that.
And remind us what Picnic Basket does for our audio listeners or people who don't
Sure.
know.
So it's been a little bit of a more common card in Standard. Don't really see it in GLC too much, but Picnic Basket just heals 30 damage from all Pokemon in play, both yours and your opponents. So I'm not spreading or doing anything. So Colorless doesn't really care too much if it's healing damage off your opponent. You're hoping to one shot, and it's not really ever gonna come into play to affect a 2-shot with the damage that you're doing. So it's just the best kind of heal spread heal that you have to that the Pokemon cards have to offer. So
yeah, it completely negates one like Tinglu outside of like weakness in your active, and I also like it into like Monkey Dory decks because Skwovet can easily die to 2 Monkey Dories. So if you're able to heal the damage from the Giratina and make it so they miss a turn of Monkey Dory, that could be a big difference.
Yeah, so that was at least the game plan for how I could have a chance to beat fighting. Stay tuned to hear how my fighting match went later in the night. So I'll go ahead and head into my matchups here. So round 1 started on stream playing against Craig into Hydro Pump, or into his Powerful Squall Hydro Pump style deck. It was a kind of things to note in this matchup here. This was a matchup I was able, while Craig wasn't spreading, I was able to punch into his whale early with my Hop Snorlax, so damaged myself, and then was able to pull off a play a little bit later where I just healed it with the Picnic Basket and was able to pull off that play so I could attack with it again, not knocking it out. Leaving it in play to attack a third time and eventually knock itself out. But by that time, it had done its job and survived that long. So And then I had a really feels bad moment. I was kind of deep in the tank, kind of figuring out what my play was for the turn. Um, and it was a turn that Craig had just Frostmothed enough energy onto a Kyogre to be able to attack with it, and he sniped one of my Pokemon and then left his board with only one energy on a damaged Wailord and one energy on the active Kyogre. And I had Gust in hand, and I was trying to figure out a bunch of other things, and was like, okay, yeah, I need to Gust the Frostmoth here because it's the only thing that can really accelerate energy on his board. Didn't have the Blastoise set up yet. So like I 100% this is always the correct play. I will do this. And then and then I look up and I say Guzma and I say Guzma your Octillery. And I put my head back down and I kind of keep doing my own thing in my deck. And I look up to go to attack and I see there's an Octillery in the active. And I'm like, I Guzma your Octillery, didn't I? And he goes, yep, you sure did. I was like, okay, I guess we're knocking out the Octillery. And I knocked out the Octillery. Very fortunately wasn't punished for my misplay because Craig did not have the means to retreat the active Pokemon after accelerating the energy to the bench with the Frostmoth. So I was able to just boss up the Frostmoth the next turn. So definitely dodged a bullet there. So yeah, that was round one. Round two, I played into JD playing a Heatran metal deck that also played the evolution or the basic blocking Archaludon that I was playing a few weeks ago. And just kind of an unfortunate start from JD having no supporter in his opening hand and just a bunch of recovery cards. So I just set up and just kind of steamrolled from there.
Yeah.
So an unfortunate game. Round three, I was back on stream playing against Michael, who I think played like 3 out of the 4 weeks of the podcast. It feels like I play him like every single week. And he plays this. I talked about it before. Really cool poison sniping grass deck with the Venomoth that snipes and the Ariados that poisons, and it's got the Amoonguss that does 150 damage to the active Pokemon if they're poisoned. So cool deck. But I just got going, went up 2 prizes, and then won from there. Round 4 was my fighting matchup where I was going to see if my fighting techs were going to work into the matchup, and I tried my hardest. I threw everything. I think I got to use all of my tech cards that I was planning to use, and it just was not enough to beat Ben in the matchup. So I still have hope though for this. I think I misplayed this a little bit. There were some things I could have optimized better. Um, for example, I had an interesting board when I started where my fan rotom was prized, so my Winona only got me just like 3 Pokemon, and I ended up with a board of Bidoof and Doduo and um, I think Cinccino. And I retreated my Bidoof into my Doduo, so I had a Pokemon that would take no damage from Tinglu in the active, a Pokemon that in the Bidoof that would take no damage on the bench, and then so Tinglu would only do 30 damage to the Minccino. And instead of I got just like so scared of the Tinglu, even though there wasn't really much it could do, that I field blowered the stadium right away, which ended up really coming back to bite me because Ben then had the strong energy and the muscle band on his Marshadow that was able to just kind of sweep with that damage there. So if I was able to remove some of that damage with the field blower later, that definitely could have worked in my favor. And then the other thing I mistakenly did was putting too much damage. I was really careful to try to not put so much damage on my Dodrio because that's the one that can tank a Marshadow hit if it doesn't have um, too much damage on it. It resists fighting by 30, so but Ben's Marshadow doing 100 damage, 70 with the resistance. I'm like, okay, I need to leave more than 70 HP. But then Ben had to play with a Hawlucha ping that pinged 10 damage on it and gusted it up. So it's just things that if I was a little bit more conscious about, I think these techs could have worked out better. But it was the first matchup trying it, and so I'd be interested to run that matchup again and see how it works out.
You
So
didn't
I'm
even
still
get to talk
hopeful.
about the best play, which was you went all legs in on your Snorlax, right? So you
Oh my
had
gosh,
Don't
yeah.
start
Snorlax,
Snorlax.
Snorlax had weakness guard energy and the Cape of Toughness on it, and so but it had taken 30 damage from Ting Lu. He swings into it. He swings into one of my guys, or Ting Lu knocks it out, and I just have Marshadow with strong and muscle, right? So it's only doing 100 damage, no weakness because of the weakness guard energy. I need at least 20 more to knock it out, but 2 of my buffs are down on Marshadow, and I need to field blower his charm. Like, I'd need to field blower his charm and get a 3rd damage buff to knock out this Snorlax with no weakness with my Marshadow. And I just had the cards like to do it. I had field blower in hand already, and then I just Karina'd for premium power pro, and I was like, yeah, just a raw 130 Marshadow to knock out your Snorlax without weakness with Marshadow is crazy.
Yeah, no, you hear players a lot of the time, and it sounds like they're just making excuses, like, "Oh, I did everything I could, but my opponent just had it." But here
They
is my
do.
opponent sitting in the call with me, saying, "Yeah, I just had it."
Yeah.
So I think it could work out. I think there's something there with the techs I included. So I yeah,
Mhm.
just didn't work out in my favor that time.
Yeah,
My final round.
weakness guard
Oh,
felt
go ahead.
really effective. Obviously I was able to get around it in that moment, but if that ever stuck, I think, and it could buy you a turn, that's definitely a route, you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, that 30 damage too, that because the picnic basket was used too. That's something I didn't mention. The 30 damage that you had on the Snorlax, I had used the picnic basket earlier when you did a Silent Lab Ting Lu spread.
Yeah.
It put 30 on my guys, and I just kind of jumped the gun a little early there, maybe too. If I saved that for when I had my Snorlax in play, I could have kept it out of that range to take a hit. So yeah, definitely some optimizations to be made there.
Yeah, the field blower being down, and yeah, the picnic basket not healing the 30 off, and then me having all the cards. It's just like just the perfect storm for it to go wrong for you, unfortunately.
Yeah, swung a little early with all my tech cards, that's for sure. Round 5 then, played against Alex. Not a very exciting game. It was a colorless mirror, and I did not play Fan Rotom going first, and Alex played Fan Rotom going second, and that was the sum of that matchup there. Probably we talked about it a little bit more after that and played a fun game. Alex is probably a little favored into that matchup. I'll let him share a little bit more about that when he talks about it in his run. Um, but definitely would have been interested to see it play out if it didn't go that way. So yeah, ended the run with a record of 3-2 with the list, so it performed pretty well. I'd like to try it again.
Very good stuff. Now let's bounce on over to the carp.
The
Yep.
winner.
So yeah, this deck list is sort of stage 1 rush style. Get your Rotom out, set up all your basics. Turn 2, find your at least Bibarel, and the rest kind of come as you draw through your deck with Squovit and Bibarel. Dubwool is on evolution, a boss's orders. The Pelipper is when you evolve it, you can either search your deck for a supporter or your discard for a supporter, and put it in your hand. And then there's Swellow, which has an ancient trait of Delta Plus. So any knockouts it takes, I get to take an extra prize card. And that it really just swings the aggression on this deck. Uh, those three really bring this deck together. So other than that, it's mostly just the colorless cards that you're going to see in nearly every attacking colorless deck. The Hops cards, Bibarel, Squovit, Oranguru to draw cards. Um, and it really just with Pelipper and Double, whatever, you have just so much agency with what the deck does. It does lead it into it being a rather difficult deck to play right. There are a lot of games you will play with this deck, and after the game go, oh, there were 4 or 5 spots that I did something wrong. And I even had that in my one loss this week. So I'll start on my run. My first round was against Hunter with fighting. He was on RDT. He changed some cards to try and deal with Lost City. Like he added a rescue scarf and some other stuff. to try and avoid what I did, which was Lost Zone his Lunatone on turn 2, as that is one of Colorless's best routes to beating fighting. He still was able to make it very close through a couple Tinglus and an Okidogi. At the end, for the last like 4 to 6 turns, we were kind of sitting in a stalemate because we were both at 2 prizes. I had a Swellow with a reversal on my bench and was just cycling through my deck as he was refusing to take a prize because he did not have a way to take multiple prizes on the board, and obviously knew I played Crisis Punch and would easily be able to find it. And that eventually was ended by me just finding the energies and gusts together to get the Swellow wing attack, and gust his Halucha.
Nice.
For the 70 damage with a powerful energy. Because what this deck really does is just go all out aggression. Swellow takes more knockouts through Muscle Band on turn 2 and 3 with a triple energy than it does with Crisis Punch. It just is an option that you have with the Crisis Punch. My round 2 was against Eric on his Psychic deck, which wasn't quite the Dwixty. It did have Dusknoir, Malamar, Gallade, but did also have Xatu. In that, I was able to... He had sort of a slower start. He was able to get basics out, but finding more than Kirlia was rough. But I was able to start attacking turn 2, Lost Zoned his Duskull and his Natu, and it just kind of was over from there. Was able to get too much of a lead. That's really how Psychic into Colorless in general kind of feels, where it's unless they can stick a Wobbuffet active before I can fan road them, just the pure aggression that Colorless gives can really give Psychic decks problems. Round 3, I played against Craig with his water deck. I did whiff the Rotom that game, and in a really bad way. It took me, because my turn 2 going first, I was Hilding for Capture and Pelipper, Capture to get Wingull. And then I Pelippered for Winona. So it was
yeah, that's a slow start.
A game. I kind of had routes to it. At the end of the game, I was able to, he had 2 prizes left and I had 4, and I doubled Defiant Horned up a Remoraid that he had gotten, recovered and started benching to put Octillery back on the board. And I should have gone after the Kyogre he had sitting on the bench, which had 3 energy on it, so I was just kind of hoping he wouldn't find the 4th energy in the 2 top decks he would have had, and he did find it. I should have gotten the Kyogre and forced him to build a new attacker from scratch, because I had the Return KO to Wailord lined up, and then I would have been able to do the Swellow Crisis Punch play for my last 2 prizes. But I wasn't able to. Craig played well, was my loss, and at that point, between losing in round 3, because the earlier you lose, generally the worse your resistance is going to be. Between that and Hunter being my round 1, who his only win on the night was a bye, unfortunately for him. I did not expect my resistance to be high enough to win. But anyways, round 4 was on stream against Jesse with his Dwifty something. He's made a few changes to the deck. I'm not completely sure. It was a sort of a similar thing to round 2, where I just was able to be aggressive earlier than he was, and keep pushing that advantage. There were some fun things though, because I did watch back the stream of Andrew just a little not knowing the past of what's happened, sort of things or not. Because he mentioned I turn 1 played Guzmahala and grabbed Lost City, but didn't put it into play because I didn't quite have the attack that turn. And Jesse, before he lilied, played Reset Stamp to reset stamp me to 6. Andrew then thought it was just sort of I don't want to draw this card back. What it really was Jesse remembering 2 weeks ago when I played this deck, and I Lost Zoned his Ralts on turn 2 with Swellow.
Good God.
So that's really what was going on there. And he went, let's not do that again if I can help it. Which, fair. But I was just able to keep up the aggression there and close out the game. And then in round 5 against John, as he already mentioned, was the colorless mirror. He went first and whiffed Rotom. I did not. And again, it was just the aggression this deck can put on with Double. I can knock out exactly what I want. With Pelipper, I can play whatever supporter I want. I didn't quite get a Swallow play over there because that can take a bit more to set up, but just the threat of Swallow in that matchup, I feel like specifically this list, as long as it can play the game, has a pretty solid matchup into the type of list that John was playing. Because as long as it can keep pace, you always have the Crisis Punch Swallow play at the end of the game, and you can still do it early too if the Muscle Band Swallow to get, say, a Rotom or Gust Up, an unevolved basic, or Squovit. There's that. There's also Double is a really strong attacker in this deck. It does only have the base damage of 80, but you can boost that by 90 damage really easily with Postwick, Hop Snorlax, and the Choice Belt. You do play. I do play all 3. And so you can get up to 170 with a triple acceleration just out of nowhere. With the double on whatever you want because of the double.
Yeah.
Not only double, but tell our listeners how much Wooloo can hit for turn 1.
Wooloo can also hit for 120 damage turn 1. With double turbo, the Hops Choice Band, Postwick, and Snorlax, as it is a 3 energy cost, base 50 damage. You can pull off the attack with Hops Choice Band, reducing the attack cost by 1. The 390 can do 120 damage turn 1 with Hops Wooloo. And if they don't answer it, you just get to evolve into Double and do it again.
Crazy power.
Yeah.
Well, congrats on getting the badge. Yeah, lucky to dodge me, of course. I was hoping to.
Feel. Yeah.
Unfortunate for me. Great for you.
Yeah, no, I really didn't think my resistance was high enough. So me and John were playing a second game, and then I heard just all of you groaning in front of the monitor when results got put up, and I went and checked it.
Yeah, it's like it's the worst outcome. Okay, we're all scrambling for badges here, trying to keep up. Carpenter thinks he's out of it already because he lost early. And then it's just like, okay, who's it going to be, me or Tyler? Because the two of us were in the finals. Who's it going to be? I was like, probably Tyler. And then it's like Carpenter. And I was like,
yeah. It's like that political cartoon of the guy in the chair with the faucet and like he's drinking all the water and getting all the badges and everything. And then no one else is getting anything.
Well, and when we looked at it too, I'm pretty sure once you had lost, I mean, there obviously the other games had to shake out how they did, but me and John were actually whichever one of us won, I believe, would have won the night once you lost, because he had a 66% resistance there, which would be lower, obviously, if he had won and I had lost, but I don't know, it would have been the 8% low or the 11% lower because next best was 55.
Yeah. That's just the way John it happens. So
yeah,
whatever.
Destined for a colorless badge last night.
Yep, he got it. He got it. Yeah, so this deck is incredibly powerful, obviously, specifically with these 3 guys on top of the already insane draw engine of Squovit, Bibarel, Oranguru. Yeah, I think it's without fighting in the meta. This is definitely one of the top decks. Like, it would be up there. It can compete with Psychic with how fast it goes, and the cheating prizes with the Swallow. Yeah, it's just it's just fighting is just a little bit gatekeepy, and it's a tough matchup. So like what's like your strategy going into a fighting matchup?
With this list, generally you have to lost on something important. Number one target is always going to be one of the rocks, Lunatone or Soul Rock. But also getting Ting Lu or Marshadow or Okidogi is also very helpful if you can't get one of the rocks. Just because it takes away either the big guy or the spread, which is really the biggest problem. Of course, Marshadow's a problem, but if they can't, you play between Rope, Dubwool, Guzma, and Pelipper to get Guzma back and scoop up net and Devo Spray. You can generally work around Marshadow, and they can only play so many gusts. Um, so while it still isn't great, you can work with it a little bit more than the traditional Turbo Colorless. Um, but it's generally try and lost zone a rock and then disrupt the hand, and hope it sticks.
And now those are good strategies, but what would you say the actual like percentage of the matchup would be? Like, is it still a losing matchup?
It's still a losing, but it's one of those ones where you can every time you play it, even when you lose, like you can tell that there's a route. It's not just like a hopeless matchup, like lightning into fighting feels like most of the time.
Yeah.
It is every time I've played the deck into fighting, even when I've lost, I've been like, okay, there's a couple things I did wrong here that I could have either gusted up something different or use this resource differently. Whatever. Things like there is in this list, similar to how John played the picnic basket, there is a medical energy, which, for those who don't know, is when you attach the energy to a Pokemon, heal 30 damage. Its main purpose is so that a Hop Snorlax can attack twice in a row. But it can also, say, heal a Squovit 30 damage after a Ting Lu, or do just other things in general.
I'm curious why medical energy, because assuming you've already attacked with Hop Snorlax, it obviously had enough energy on it already. So is it really worth putting the extra energy on Hop Snorlax to heal it? When that energy could be committed somewhere else.
So it's the energy because the slot in the deck kind of needed to be an energy. Obviously, there now I will say Picnic Basket can get weirder in this deck than it does in the Turbo Colorless list because this deck will often go for things like into fighting where you punch Tinglu with Rotom and then try and finish it off with Swellow, with Muscle Band Swellow, or just things like that. So Picnic Basket can get weird with when you're trying to set things up like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's also just that the card slot kind of needed to be an energy.
Yeah, that makes sense. You just want to
And
like see you need
and
like that
also a
amount.
lot, yes. Also a lot of the time, because there's not, other than the stadiums, there's not really great field blower targets in this deck. So the other person will often be able to, if they're gonna gust around the Snorlax, they'll usually be able to find the field blower to get rid of the Hop's Choice Band that is almost always used on Snorlax.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah, those are like those strategies into fighting with the Harambe deck. That's what it's called. Don't ask about it. It's called Harambe. It is a Turbo Blaze deck list. It's similar to the Milo Pump list. So props to them for building another cracked colorless list. But yeah, we did want to dive into a broader topic of colorless in general and its spot in the meta, different ways you can play it, and maybe different strategies for specifically fighting, and maybe some other types if we feel like discussing them. But fighting's the big boogeyman for colorless. Anything else you can kind of deal with. So, John, why don't you lead us into that?
Yeah, so the list Ben's got on the screen right now is Cameron Armstrong's badge winning list. This was the last colorless badge to win before Mega Evolution came out. So I just wanted to kind of show this as it's a pretty standard base list of kind of at post double energy ban, pre fighting becoming broken, mega evolution coming out, what the lists sort of look like there. So this is just kind of like a broad overview of just like, hey, if you're trying to be as efficient as possible, you don't have to tech for certain matchups or certain types. These are generally the cards you're liking to play in this list. Cameron playing the Crispin with the different energies. Some of these lists will play only fires, or like I was doing, only fairy to synergize with Mina or Mela. Um, and then you see like a lot of things, just like consistency pieces in here. So it's got like the um, trainer's mail and the poke gear. A deck so low to the ground like this, just like has space for those. So this is kind of just like what the list was, or list similar to this, and most lists, because I looked at a lot of colorless lists when I was kind of, I hadn't built colorless since the double ban, so I was kind of building it for the first time. So I looked at a lot of different lists, and these cards that I'm mentioning, these consistency cards are in most colorless lists. So this is kind of where it was and why it was such a strong deck, is it had space for these things. But as you're considering, okay, now how do I go about beating a deck like fighting that's so dominant and everywhere and has such a strong matchup into this, and you got to look at, okay, well, maybe these consistency cards and these other cards need to kind of turn into something else, and that's where my list headed sort of for this week. And so you see on the screen now the two cards that I included in my list to try and combat the strength of the fighting deck in that weakness guard energy and the picnic basket. Sort of addressed why those were in my list in particular earlier. But then we've also got the likes of the Lost City that was in Alex's list, trying to get rid of those pieces that are so strong for fighting. Fighting needing the both of the rocks in play. So if you get rid of them, it loses its draw. You can get rid of the Dogi. Um, one of its strongest attackers, or if you're lucky enough, pull off getting rid of the Mars Shadow there. So just some other tech inclusions here. Alex, we got the two Pokemon here that can kind of help out maybe in the matchup. Why don't you tell us about that Tornadus and Dunsparce at the bottom of the
Yeah,
screen?
so the Tornadus is when you place it on the bench, your opponent has to switch out their active. Other types have this effect, mostly water, in the Iron Bundle and the Fione, which Fione shuffles it or puts itself on the bottom of the deck, and Iron Bundle discards itself. There's also another colorless card, a Halucha, that has the same exact ability, and it would be used mostly to try and help get around Marshadow. Um, obviously, uh, yeah, is Marshadow's invincibility is just a big problem for the deck. Uh, that this helps deal with. Dunsparce gets rid of weakness. It does have the problem of only 60 HP, so it still does itself get knocked out by just two Ting-Lu spreads, or if it gets gusted and there's a Silent Lab in play, Ting-Lu will knock it out immediately. There are things you can do to get around that by playing like Dunsparce and evolving it and shuffling it away to draw and then finding it again. But it still is the issues with it, but it helps, just like how the weakness guard energy did. Or Ben said the weakness guard energy may help. Getting rid of weakness is always helpful when your weakness matchup is this rough.
Right. Yeah. And I will say we're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel here. Like
Yeah.
these Tornadus and Dunsparce, like they were in neither of your guys' lists, for good
No.
reason. We're mentioning them because you might want to get a little creative and try something new. Tornadus, while having the ability to push the Marshadow, also happens to resist fighting, so there's like some synergy there. Although his attack is terrible, at only 100 damage for 3 and only 120 HP, so still dying to Okidogis very easily, and Lucario, and like you said, Dunsparce also just being so easily taken out by Ting Lu and the likes of that. That it's just like, is it really even worth it at that point to have these guys? Yeah, so we're just like, just you want to be aware of what the pool has to even work with when you're maybe looking at how to counter these things. So like obviously Marshadow is a big problem, and weakness is a big problem, and spread's a big problem. Everything's a big problem, one thing I do think we forgot that, before the pod, I was like, Are we forgetting everything? I don't know, but enhanced hammer I think is always a decent card to have into fighting, especially to both reduce the damage output of a Marshadow with strong energy and remove Okidogi's special energy to drop its HP down. So enhanced hammer is another good shout there. Um, One other thing you could do is like Thea from Full Grip has done a lot is build an all birds deck. Colorless has a lot of bird type Pokemon since there's no flying type in the card game. They all become colorless and they almost all resist fighting. The downside is that there's not really any good basic birds outside of the ones that they already play in Rotom and Hops Cramorant.
Yeah, it does have some cool attackers, and like the Talonflame does, I believe, 220 damage to anything with 2 or more retreat, and the Toucannon does 160 damage and bounces an energy back to hand, so you can reuse the triple excel all the time. Is really cool. They are still stage 2s, which is rough. Dodrio is interesting too into the matchup specifically, because while Tinglu does spread and everything in this deck resists fighting, the bench damage doesn't care about that. So Tinglu really just powers up Dodrio more.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's also a downside of the birds deck is, even though Tinglu would power up your Dodrio, all your colorless guys on the bench will still be dying to Tinglu, and getting softened up enough that Okidogi, Lucario, and Ursaluna will more than easily swing over any resistance that you might have. So again, it's just a rough spot for colorless. I think in talking about the double Swellow Pelipper deck, the Harambe deck, it does seem kind of like that might be the best position. You just want to go as aggro as possible. You want to lost zone stuff. You want to disrupt. Pelipper also swings with the triple acceleration.
It does.
Does enough damage to knock out Marshadow. You can put Muscle Band on it to knock out any of the rocks. And yeah, the Swellow being able to hopefully take an extra prize either at the end game or maybe even early game if you get enough damage buffs. Unlikely with unless they bench like Halucha, probably.
Yeah, Halucha and Riolu are really the big targets there. The other thing too to always remember in any matchup, but also fighting if you can keep it close, is Crisis Punch is not only for Swellow. So you can still, I've many times and seen other people do many times where it's 1-to-1, but the only thing you can find is triple acceleration and a Bibarel. But Bibarel can use Crisis Punch all the same.
That's a good tip to remember.
Finally, an attack where Bibarel doesn't have to flip a coin to see if it does damage.
Right.
Literally. But yeah, I do think when I play fighting and I play against fighting with other decks, I am often looking to disrupt in combination with hopefully them not having both rocks on board. Whether they attacked with Soul Rock and left it active for you, or you're able to gust it up somehow while also disrupting with like a reset stamp. And this deck is really good at doing that because you have Pelipper to search out the hand disruption and you have Dubwool to bring up whatever you want. Two abilities that allow you to pull off the play without playing any supporter yet. So and then when you disrupt fighting to low hand size and they're unable to, if they don't find the right supporter or a recovery and an energy off of like a Marnie or an Iono to 3, fighting can kind of fall apart quickly. And that's a way that you can take advantage of a slow turn for fighting. Yeah, I don't know, John. Do you have any thoughts on this deck, or like now that you've played you played the Turbo Colorless this week, you played against Alex, and you played against fighting, obviously. Do you feel like you want to keep trying to stick with the Turbo Colorless and try out some different techs, or what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm split a little 50-50. I mentioned I think I could have played our matchup a little bit better, and I think there's merit there. And while this list, I think you guys are right in saying that like the Harambe style might be the best way to combat fighting as colorless. But I wouldn't mind trying the list I built again, just like giving it one more shot. I'm 50-50 split. I haven't done it yet, but I've literally kind of meant to ask Alex, say, hey, is your Harambe list just available that I can maybe use it next week? Because I'm playing against it and obviously seeing it win the badge, beat a fighting deck. I mean, that's everything I'm hoping to do with colorless right now. So it's definitely been tempting. So Alex, I might be in your DMs asking to borrow this list
Man.
since you don't need it anymore next week. But yeah, so like we've been saying, this is looking like one of the better ways to try and beat fighting as colorless. We've given you guys some other options that we've come up with. As Ben said, we're kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel, trying to figure out other ways that you can. But be sure to get in the comments, let us know ways that you guys have been building colorless and any other ideas you guys might have. Something we missed maybe, or something you found that works better.
I do want to ask briefly about the psychic matchup because we're focusing a lot on the fighting matchup, though psychic is definitely more prevalent in the meta. You're more afraid of fighting, of course, but when psychic is as popular as it is, um, and you're rolling up with this colorless deck, what are your feelings going when you're paired into psychic? Are you really worried? Do you feel like it can go either way, or do you feel, maybe some confidence in the speed of your deck? Why don't you tell us your thoughts there, Alex?
I'm really worried until the moment it's my turn and there's not a Wobbuffet in the active. Uh, Pretty much. Cause it's as long as you can get set up. Just again the raw aggression from uh just a Rotom, even turn 1 or 2, and especially if you can find Lost City and just Lost City any of the evolving basics, it just puts so much pressure on their deck, on the psychic deck, to really have an answer to you. Uh or else they just might not be able to keep up. And even if they can answer that, if they're just taking the one prize knockouts and you can fit a Swellow in early, it can be really devastating
Yeah.
to the prize trade.
And how about into something like Garbodor? Do you like? Obviously, the strategy there is probably just target down Trubbish as soon as you see it.
Yeah. It's because again, so it's kind of the similar as like when I play, because I've talked with Hunter about it a lot because he really likes Garbodor, and I acknowledge it as a good deck. Uh, um, is that into even like normal psychic decks? When we first played Garbodor to the Mega 3K, psychic decks were a little bit slower, whether just how they were played or how they were built. Um, and so you really did have a couple turns to find your Garbodor, and once you got Garbodor up in the mirror, uh, you really could kind of just run away with it. But now, by virtue of them being faster and playing more ways to take extra prizes, be it the Roaring Skies, Ancient Trait Natu, or Blacephalon, or Dust Noir, um, any way then the deck can find to just get Garbodor off the board, uh, the other psychic deck will, or in this case, colorless here, will just, I feel, have the advantage because it still has access to its like extra prize or comeback mechanic. Whereas if you can eliminate Garbodor from the game, the Garbodor deck really doesn't have that comeback mechanic left.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. Now if we were like heading into like a 3K in this format right now, um, like what do you feel like the odds if someone played this deck? What are the odds they could have a deep run and do well? Like, would this
I think
be?
it's
Would you consider this deck at all for yourself?
for sure. I mean, just especially with just the amount of psychic I would expect. It would still be tough to choose it knowing how tight the fighting matchup can be. But with the amount of psychic and water I would expect and how those matchups can play out, I would certainly have to consider this deck.
Yeah, it seems really strong, and fighting obviously is the big check to it. Yeah, I wouldn't really fault anyone for playing it as well, because strong, fast, aggressive type decks always have a way to do well, whether it be this, whether it be fighting itself or dragon. Sometimes you just have a hot start and you run away with it, and that's all
Yep.
you care about.
I mean, we've already seen some of the earliest versions of this type of deck. Was second to you at the Journey Together 1K
Yep.
with Trevor Redding's list.
Yep, Trevor was playing the Pelipper. Was he playing the double? I think he was.
Yes, it was Pelipper, Double, and Bibero were the only evolutions in that
Right.
deck.
Yep.
Because you didn't quite need the extra prize stuff when you had all 3 doubles.
Yeah.
And we only had the 1 triple. Getting Ignition was a massive boost to this deck.
Absolutely. I feel like Swellow
Sure.
is unusable without the second Ignition.
It's certainly
unusable.
a lot harder.
Yeah. Much harder. But yeah, so yeah, if you guys are looking out there to hop on to a colorless deck, I think it sounds like we all kind of agree this is probably the one to do it right now. Though
it will melt your brain, but you'll have fun doing it.
Yeah, we'll have a learning curve, when to use those abilities, who to target, things like that, how to piece together a double prize turn with Swallow, all super important. Colorless is really fun to play, in my opinion. I do enjoy it, and if you like a challenge, run it into RDT a bunch of times, and because both decks being so fast, sometimes those are fun matchups, because both decks being so fast, it's just going to be a very explosive game. You're gonna have a lot of fun going back and forth. But yeah, tell us your thoughts, like John said, in the comments about Colorless, where you think it is. One of our hot takes last week, if you remember, was someone saying, Colorless is basically BDIF outside of fighting, and I would not fault anyone for putting Colorless high up on the tier list. That's for sure.
Yeah. Fighting, existing in the form it does, is really the only reason I would say I wouldn't see Colorless as part of the top 3 or 4 types.
Yeah, definitely. And any last thoughts on the fighting Colorless before we get into our next segment? All right.
No.
Yeah, so now we are going to just quickly talk about some highlight cards from the new English set Ascended Heroes, which came out just over a week ago now. I think if you're tuned into the GLC meta, you're aware that there is, although this is like one of our biggest sets in a long time, and will be one of our biggest sets of the year, it is one of the least impactful.
Yeah, this is actually the biggest set, I believe, ever printed.
Yeah, that's crazy.
By cards.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Biggest set with a lot of reprints, so you'll see some good stuff in there. But there are some. We'll go over a few here. There are a few things to look at that did come out in this set. So, yeah, starting off with a few trainer cards in the Pokepad. GLC now has Master Ball. Welcome Master Ball to the GLC format. The only restriction on this card is that it cannot search for Pokemon that have a rule box. Pokemon in GLC do not have rule boxes, so it just says search your deck for a Pokemon, put it in your hand. Pretty great. Useful at any time during the game. Then we got Canary here. You can only use this card if you discard another card from your hand. Search your deck for up to 4 lightning Pokemon. Reveal them and put them into your hand. Shuffle your deck. So we've got a Winona style card, searching for 4 instead of 3. Only downside is having to discard an energy, which
discard any card, not just energy.
Yeah,
discard any card, not just an energy. It can be an energy, though, is the point I was trying to make, to possibly, Dynamite or something back on later. So sometimes these discard effects, not necessarily always a negative. Sometimes you want things in the discard pile. So really strong setup supporter for Lightning there and the Canary.
Yeah, Alex, is this going in every single Lightning deck?
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of the things too that I've said for a long time is I would like for every type to have some form of this supporter, where it is the just go get 3 or do some cost, go get 4 or whatever, of that Pokemon, because it's just as much as I'm fine with types having to play worse cards sometimes, every time I see a Rezu in an opening hand in water, if I don't have basic search in that hand, I am very mad.
Yeah, no, I
um,
feel that. Yeah, being able to search evolutions is a huge difference because obviously every type has Gloria, every type has Bridget,
yeah.
but searching basics only does limit a ton because you got to find your evolution. So being able to, maybe find, because you can play Canary on later turns for even greater effect, to find like
Mhm.
all your evolutions at once. Yeah, really great card. Obviously, we're talking more about Canary than we did about Pokepad, but that just goes without saying that
Uh,
Pokepad is by
yeah,
far the best card in the set. Pretty much the only one that people are talking
every
about.
format. Yeah,
It's gonna
yeah.
go in
Best
nearly
card in
every
every
deck.
format.
Yeah, it's busted. So pick up your Pokepads.
Oh,
Hopefully they're not too expensive.
yeah, I think it reached like something crazy. Like I saw $25
I
Pokepads
saw
on TCG Player.
$40 at
I
some
believe
point.
it. Yeah, people
Actually,
were charging out the wazoo for Pokepads. But shout out this week. The only reason we were able to play with Pokepads was Natalie at Full Grip Games, sniping
true.
a kind of set of I think like 12 Japanese Pokepads off eBay, and then getting it to the players at Full Grip Games. So shout out to her for pulling that off, making it so we could play with the new cards upon release.
Yes, thank you so much, Natalie. She is the goat. And then
Hmm.
almost the next best thing outside of those two trainer cards to even mention is the Rayquaza. It has the Breakthrough Assault attack, which says if this Pokemon moved from your bench to the active spot this turn, this attack does 90 more damage. It is a Dragon type with 120 HP and one retreat. And Alex, why don't you tell us how it can be used?
Pretty effectively in Dragon between having uh Reshiram to attach extra fire energies as the Dragon Claw, letting it use the Z Crystal
Mm-hmm.
is huge as well. And just also, it's the first of these attackers. We've had Hoopa and Zapdos, and Palafin even that are attackers that do really good damage for the amount of energy they take. They just have to move from the bench to the active during the turn. And this is the first one we have that can sit there, you attach one more energy, and it just keeps taking knockouts. Um, I think it's good and does make Dragon decks better. I don't think it fixes any of the problems that Dragon had, as those problems were fighting just Ting lose twice and then buffs one Marshadow. Uh, it's kind of similar to Lightning and Colorless. It takes a little more work, but I don't know. It's definitely a strong card. Just being another two energy attacker. Before it had Raging Bolt could snipe for 2 for 60 damage. It had Druddigan,
Druddigan.
which could revenge for 160 for 2. This is the a third two energy attacker that does really help the
Yeah,
deck's stream attackers more.
definitely. And then just moving down from there, slightly weaker dragons. John, why don't you tell us what those do?
Yeah, so we got Dragonair and Zekrom here, just not quite on par with the Rayquaza that just came out. Dragonair with the evolutionary guidance ability. If it's got an energy attached to it, you can use it to search your deck for an evolution Pokemon and put it into your hand. So, um, if you're playing a deck that has Dragonite, then this Dragonair is definitely, not even definitely. There's the one that lets you use an attack that you can rain dance as many energy onto your board as possible. But I think in reality, this evolutionary guidance is going to be more universally better. Hopefully, you're not attacking with your Dragonair and Dragon. But good ability. It is on a stage 1, and it does kind of beg the question: am I really going to put a Dragonite in my Dragon deck to make this happen? And there's some Dragonites out there that can get in there and do some things and have good abilities and decent attacks, but oftentimes really not. You don't see a lot of Dragon decks playing Dragonites in there. So
Yeah.
um, then the End Zekrom. This one having a Shred attack as its first attack is pretty interesting. For 3 colorless energy, 70 damage, goes through any effects. This is important when considering things like that Marshadow that Alex was talking about that can sweep after a few Ting Lus. Put something in there that you can kind of grind that Marshadow to a halt. So if it's really bothering you, it is an expensive attack when you think about it. Mentioning that, okay, we're finally getting dragons that can cost 2 energy. It's a little bit more efficient. That shred, kind of, if it's what you got to do to get through the Marshadow, you'll pay whatever. But 3 energy for 70. It's a little high. And then the big one, the Rampaging Thunder, can hit for 250 damage. Them there Wailord numbers. Unfortunately, costing 4 energies to do that. But I'm always looking at these cards and thinking, well, we'll put it in the binder for the future because
Yeah.
if
Whaler
Dragon just
numbers
gets
are
like a
whaler
little, yeah, if Dragon just gets like a little bit of energy acceleration aside from the Reshi Ram, you could be looking at something here. You never know where we're going to be at. A year down the line, maybe Hydro Pump Wailord is the best deck in the format, and you need something to beat it. And Dragon's that thing that has that card that can hit that number. So, definitely a card to keep in mind.
Yeah, right now it kind of relies on the Dragonium Z to hit high numbers, anything 180 damage plus. And the Dragonium Z crystal discards all your energy when you use it as well. So, and Zekrom, while unlikely to see play right now, and especially at, 4 energy is doable, it also has the same energy costs, like type costs, as, Dragonbox currently runs in the fire and the lightning colors. So, not much need to swap like energy types in your deck for that. And between Reshiram, Raihan, Max Elixir, Double Dragon Energy, like it is feasible to get 4 energy onto your Zekrom to do 250. So it is on the, like I said, this is going from left to right, Rayquaza Dragon or Zekrom, best to worst of at least, considerable cards for Dragon from Ascended Heroes. But yeah, so those are the Dragon cards, and now we're going to keep going on Ascended Heroes, a couple more slides, and we're just going to get weaker and weaker.
Okay, well, I guess I have to be the one to talk about this one.
Go for it.
We do have this new Silcoon that when you evolve it, you can search your deck for a Cascoon and put it on your bench. Which does enable playing both the Beautifly with Stoke Straw to fill your hand to 6, and this Ancient Trait Dustox that has the same Ancient Trait as Swallow to take an extra prize in the same deck. It is still a lot of deck spaces. I do think that this Silcoon, whether you're going to play the Dustox or not, is the optimal Silcoon. Not that it matters that much, but it is the first one with 90 HP. Everything else had 80. And it does give you a free deck search on Evolution, whether you have the Dustox in your deck or not, which can matter sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it is just opens up a lot of opportunities to play, whether it be like the Flapple that shuffles itself back in to put 2 damage counters on something, and then a triple acceleration and a blindside with Dustox are possible. All of those are evolutions, but it's possible.
Yeah.
And I mean, taking extra prizes is so powerful. I would not be surprised if we see a solid deck that does play this whole combination.
Hey,
Yeah.
you say they're all evolutions, but if there's a deck that can get evolutions into play, it's grass.
Yes, this is true. It will prize them, but it can do it.
Yeah.
The part I hate the most whenever I think about wanting to use the Dustox is that the 1 grass energy cost in its second attack. We just talked about Swellow, which is near identical in power level to this. Swellow is a stage 1. This is a stage 2. They're near identical in power level. They both take extra prizes. Swellow for 3 energy does 50 damage and takes an extra prize. Dustox for 3 energy does 50 damage, and it does snipe, so a little more flexible. But it's a stage 2 and costs a grass. So the triple and the ignition energy, you can't use
the
it.
Reversal. Yeah, the reversal is much more important. It can still use the other 2 for blindside and crisis punch, but it is a lot less flexible.
Yeah, if you could just snipe 50 for an ignition or swing into the active with a muscle band with an ignition, like it would just make it would just make cooking the deck so much more friendly
it
to
would
you.
seem a lot more feasible for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Um,
But like we've said before, it's just good to know kind of what's in the pool now. Now that this Silcoon exists and you can split evolutions because both Beautifly and Dustox evolve from the same basic worm pool. Yeah, so now that this you're able to split them both into the same deck, I think it's just a really cool ability that they gave us, and it's going to be interesting to consider in the future if they ever give us, another strong Dustox or another strong Beautifly. So that's about that with the Silcoon, and John told me to put this Entei on here. I don't know why, but he can tell me. Go ahead.
I mean, I scrolled through PKMN earlier, or the set list for Ascended Heroes earlier, and anything that just looked like mildly interesting. You in the message you said, "Is there really anything else to talk about other than Pokepad?" So I did my due diligence of scrolling through the set list and messaging you anything that looked mildly interesting.
I put my boy
And
to
here we
work.
have this Entei. Uh, here we have this Entei that is, I would say, aptly described as mildly interesting. It's for 2 fire energy, does 30 plus. If you have 4 fire energy in play, this attack does 90 more damage. So another Entei that hits for 120 damage. Seems to be Entei's thing that it does. Probably not really better than either of these Entei. It does have 140 HP, which I guess is something. And if you're playing a list that has Charizard in it, doubling the energies, it's fine. It's another mid-tay that Ben has on the slide at the bottom there. I think that's just an apt description. It's going to be a lot easier to rally back for 120, or possibly with the pressure ability. The other Entei technically even has more at 150 effective HP because it takes 20 less damage. So
Yep.
yeah,
and that pressure extends to the bench too, so it also works against spread.
Yeah. Yes, I would say this Entei is mid-tay, and I'll leave it at that. On here, these are some other just like could be okay, like maybe test them out in a deck or not. First one is the Psychic type Spectrier, which is a basic Pokemon, and for 3 energy, 2 Psychic and a colorless cost. It just says discard all energy and place 12 damage counters on one of your opponent's Pokemon. So it is a snipe attack for 120, similar to what we've seen with the Galarian Articuno. Although this is damage counters as opposed to damage, so it will go around a bench barrier. A basic bench barrier will not go around a Choke or Rabska, but it will go around Manaphy, Shaman, the likes like that. I said it could be okay because Psychic definitely has the ability to use it. Psychic being as powerful it is, it having 1 retreat cost, it being a basic, it won't be too difficult to power this thing up. Just the question is it more worth it than is the placing a damage as an effective attack more worth it than if you wanted to play like Articuno? Like, what do you think, Alex?
I don't know. So not only is the Articuno's ability is part of what makes it such a good card, in that it can just come out of nowhere, whether you have like your acceleration on board yet or not, is huge. But also important about Articuno is that it only discards psychic energy. So you can put a recycle or a dark in monkey psychic, or counter energy if you're even or ahead on prizes, and keep one of the energies on Articuno, and that's just never happening with Spectre. It's always discarding everything. So I don't think the placing of damage counters is really worth it over that. Um, but who knows? Maybe it is. It would take testing it out to see.
Yeah. Even the
It does have the spooky
flexibility.
shot, the 1 energy,
No, go ahead.
to knock out Badoos and Clefas as well, which isn't nothing.
It's not nothing. It does
Um,
resist fighting, so that's always a positive. Um, and I will say though, I think even the flexibility of Blacephalon might even be more worth it. Even though you can only use Blacephalon on 1
yeah.
turn, being able to place the damage anywhere as opposed to just on 1 Pokemon Might
I didn't. Yeah. Yeah, I didn't notice the horse does only have one retreat, so that is really good.
yeah, one
compared
retreat's
to the
always
two
positive.
retreat that compared to the two retreat that Articuno and Blacephalon have. I don't think it makes up for the speed that Articuno can give or the flexibility that Blacephalon's attack gives.
Right.
Um,
Well, that's enough about the horse. John, why don't you tell us about the Petulant?
So you have this down a bit lower. If this list is truly in descending order on the list, then I would consider. I think this Petulant is actually really interesting and pretty good. Having that ability in the final chain, if this Pokemon is knocked out by damage from an attack from your opponent's Pokemon, search your deck for a card and put it into your hand, then shuffle your deck. So it's a free deck search for any card if it gets knocked out. Which is just a really strong ability to have, especially if you're thinking of Guzzlord builds, the Turbo Energy. This is your Turbo Energize guy. You want to get this guy in the active, slap Turbo Energize on him, and accelerate some energy. That's the main case use for it. The other thing that I think is really interesting is this attack here, the Mochi Rush, doing 20 damage and then 50 more the following turn. The 20 damage, especially with Psychic being one of the most popular decks in the room, really isn't nothing, especially in a dark deck where you're hitting for weakness. And then also you have two ways to boost that 20 damage to 40 with the Dark Claw and the Muscle Band, which then doubles to 80 damage. So this guy is knocking out your Dark Weak basic Pokemon that are like 70 HP, which really I think is relevant. And then doing more damage the following turn with the 50. So you're bumping to 70. You're really knocking out anything. So like I think this Petulant, even without like turbo energizing to something, which is like the obvious use for it, in a psychic matchup can like really just like run away with a game if they don't set up. And when they finally knock it out, you get any card to set up your board fully. So I think a really strong addition to the dark type this Petulant is.
Yeah, I'm interested to see how much play it will see. I should say, yeah, this isn't completely in descending order. These are all better than Entei. I'll say that. Um,
yeah.
all three of these are better than Entei, and yeah, Petulant is, probably after like the Rayquaza is like maybe the next
Yeah, that's
most
right.
considerable card for a type. Um, yeah, so I'm not sure how much play it will see because getting it, if you're gonna work to get something into the active to attack, is it really best to be using Petulant? Like maybe you want it's just more off. Like how often are you gonna want to go into Petulant as opposed to going in with Hoopa
Yeah.
or going in with like an early Spiritomb?
Yeah, it'd be more appealing in a type that didn't have such good efficient attackers already. Um the ability isn't nothing. But I just feel like there's a lot of whether it's just gusting around it is fine because like it gusting also resets the attack. So like there's that decks play a lot of decks playing Silent Lab recently. It feels like, I guess it goes back and forth, but Silent Lab is always in everyone's mind for everyone for your deck. So like Silent Lab and Take a Knockout, most decks are playing Hex. Um, and so I don't know. It's certainly something to try though.
Yeah, worth trying. This next one, we don't have to spend time discussing. I'm going to take a quick poll after I read it. But it is a King Gambit, which is a stage 2 metal type Pokemon with the ability Supreme Overlord, which says attacks used by this Pokemon do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon for each prize card your opponent has taken. So, say your opponent only has one prize card left. Your King Gambit is doing plus 150 damage with its attacks. It has the double-edged slash attack for 2 metal, which does 180 damage. So already a really high number before any buffs, while also doing 50 damage to itself. Quick poll from you guys. Would you ever consider playing this in a metal deck?
No.
No.
That's right. Probably not, because 1, it's a stage 2. 2, it has not even enough HP to survive an Okidogi hit. So it's like, what are you even doing? Okidogi or Iron Boulder, 2 basic Pokemon, very easily powered up. It's just like, yeah, Zamazenta is better, as a basic. So there's not really any need to play the King Gambit. These are more niche, but could see play in specific builds for them, I think. Snoret's just a basic, so that one is just, it's our first 70 HP, 1 retreat Snorent. So if you're playing a Frostlass type of build with the ability ping Frostlass, or the Frostlass that can damage itself to do up to 140 damage, this is the new optimal Snorent. But Metacham has a 1 energy attack for 150 that says if you must have 7 cards in your hand. If you do not have 7 cards, this attack does nothing. I just put it on here because I'm like, you never want, when you see a number that high for an energy cost that low, you never want to say never.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any additional thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, if it's not fighting with
if
Thor,
it was in fire,
gets massive
actually
hands.
consider it.
Yeah, you get massive hands. So having 7 cards in your hand at the end of the turn isn't like unreasonable.
Not unreasonable, but is it worth 2 slots? Who knows?
Like,
Okie dokie.
no,
so
the
good.
cargo's like just better.
So true. Moving on. We've got Ens Vanillux, which is a stage 2 water Pokemon. It has the Snow Coating attack as its first attack, which for 2 colorless energy says double the number of damage counters on each of your opponent's Pokemon. So this is like a new spread finisher style attacker in a spread water build. It's has that attack is the same as a Lunala from the Celebration set, which we saw a couple years ago. So say you have like 60 damage on all your opponent's guys, you go in with Snow Coating, they all double to 120. Maybe hopefully you have more damage than that. You maybe could board wipe with this thing. Its second attack is also not anything to ignore. For 3 energy, 1 water, 2 colorless. It does 120 to the active and spreads 10 damage everywhere. So again, you can use that with a reversal energy in a low cost water build to clean up something in the active and do some spreading. Again, this is niche, but if you're building a water spread deck, this may be a card you want to consider. Do you guys have any thoughts on this one?
Just don't forget you have Ens PP up.
Good to know.
It's true. Yeah, I don't know. A whole stage 2 for it. I remember John tried to play that Lunala for a while when he was stuck with playing Psychic Spread and with the Dust Noir that moves damage counters, with the dream of the board wipe. I don't know that he ever actually did it. And to be fair, Water is the type next to Psychic that is the most able to do whatever it wants. So maybe.
But, yeah, Psychic definitely had a lot more spread tools. Lunala felt better in there. I think the conclusion I reached eventually with the trying to make the Lunala work is why am I playing a stage, 2 Pokemon to attack and do this when I could just like when it came out put the TM Devolution if I really needed to like why double damage counters when I could just like reduce their HP in that situation. So it could be. I mean, I would almost say, second to Psychic, that Water has some of the better spread cards in the format. So something to keep an eye on.
Frostlass. There's the Kyurem that spreads 30 to everything. The new Frostmoth that can do 20 to everything for 1. It has another Delta trait, extra prize Articuno as a finisher. So it definitely has tools.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Ens Vanillux might be a little too costly being a stage 2 to see some play, but something to keep in mind for the future. And I believe that is our final slide of the Ascended Heroes set review. If there's any cards that you're looking at that we did not comment on, let us know, because I would want to be aware of it myself. But yeah, it's pretty, for how big of a set it is, pretty unimpactful outside of the Pokepad. And the card you'll see the most outside of that is definitely the Rayquaza, mostly because Lightning isn't seeing a lot of play right now. But yeah, any final thoughts on the Ascended Heroes meta from you guys? Or are we just looking forward to Phantom Order at this point?
Yeah, just a small set to shake things up a little bit. You don't mind those. Not every set needs to be a mega evolution, a meta defining thing. We got some really good cards. We've already talked about. Kind of got ahead of ourselves coming up here. So small shakeups like this are kind of nice, and you don't want things changing too often.
Yeah, and Pokepad itself has felt just great. Just playing the card just feels good.
Yeah, it's so nice.
You love cards that just make the format feel better. Like, it's not a deck; it's just like every single deck just got a little better, and you love to see it.
Yeah, it's so nice to get rid of Evo Soda, man. And that's the card I want to look to get rid of most of the time. Timer Ball is another one.
Yeah, rip Evo Soda, Timer Ball, Level Ball in some situations.
Yeah, sometimes Evo Incense.
Yeah.
And specifically in all basics Dragon build, Ultra Ball.
Yeah.
Well, Pokepad is okay. This is a question I'll pose to you guys, not necessarily right away, but is Pokepad marking the start of the death of Ball Guy?
No,
I would
because
say no.
I think that started a long time ago.
Well,
it's already been happening.
Honestly, yeah, it's probably Buddy Poffin. I'd say more started it.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think Buddy Poffin kind of pushed Ball Guy out of being like a mainstream card, and now Ball Guy kind of finds its slots in very specific decks. But I do think the decks that the decks that do play Ball Guy, specifically ones that have like those extra balls, like Team Magma's balls, Team Aqua's balls, dive balls, things like that. Those get such good use out of Ball Guy that just Pokepad I don't think is necessarily worth it to completely replace them at this point. No. But yeah, so that is gonna do it for the episode this week. Thank you, Alex, so much for joining us.
It was fun joining you.
And hopefully we can stop him there and prevent any 7th badges from being acquired.
Oh.
Everyone is preying on your downfall. Just kidding. We like to see, people like to watch. I don't know. Yeah, if you're a fan of Alex, let us know down below. If you're a fan, if you want me or John to take the season this time, let us know. Let's get some rivalry going. But it's been really fun, and it's been a good season so far. I still think it's anybody's season, because if you're able to get that many badges in the first half, anybody could catch up in the second half.
It's possible.
It's possible, but unlikely.
I'm
probably
playing worse next
That's right. That's right. Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us. Sticking around. Please like the video, subscribe, follow wherever you're listening, on Spotify, on Apple. Really helps us out. We really appreciate all the support so far. We had a lot of fun doing the hot takes last week, and I just want to say, hopefully Tony will be back someday. Tony, get better. We all love you.
We miss.
Yeah, that'll do it. We will see you guys next time. Bye bye.
Thanks for lounging with us.